Lesson 3. Preview. Focus on the main idea. The Egyptians and Nubians interacted with each other and with other peoples. Places: Nubia, Meroe, Cush, Napata. People: Thutmose III, Kashta, Pianki, Amonoranus. Vocabulary: independent. Nubia and Egypt. You are there. Your father has returned from a country in the north called Egypt. You are so happy to see him. He has been gone for 2 years, working as an archer in the Pharaoh's army. The Pharaoh thinks that Nubian archers are superior to other archers in battle. As a Nubian archer, your father has fought in many battles for the Pharaoh. Your father tells you about the large stone buildings and statues that he saw in Egypt. You are curious about Egypt. You have never left your country. What is it like to live in Egypt? Is it the same as Nubia? You hope to learn more about this faraway land from your father's stories. Target skill: summarize. As you read, summarize the main points about Nubian civilization. Lands south of Egypt. Nubia was a kingdom to the south of Egypt. Today, part of Nubia makes up an African nation, the Sudan. The Egyptians knew that people were living there even before Egypt was unified. Archaeologists have found evidence that people had been living in Nubia since the Old Stone Age. Some archaeologists believe that civilizations emerged in Nubia about 3200 BC. Nubia's borders begin at the first cataract on the Nile River. Unlike Egypt, Nubia had tall cliffs of granite rock surrounding the land from the first to the second cataract. The Egyptians cultivated crops by using wooden digging sticks. However, the Nubians had to work harder because the soil was rocky. They used sturdier farming tools. To transport water from the Nile to the crops, the Nubians built irrigation canals, similar to those in Egypt. The Nubians developed their own culture. They had their own art, architecture, and beliefs. However, both the Egyptians and Nubians borrowed from each other's culture. The Nubians had a written language called Meroitic, which was named for one of the capital cities, Meroe. Although Meroitic is similar to Egyptian hieroglyphics, no one has yet been able to decode it. Most of what we know about the Nubians comes from Egyptian sources. The Egyptians and Nubians both believed in many gods. Some archaeologists think that the Nubians also worshipped Egyptian gods. The Nubians believed in the afterlife. Like the Egyptians, the Nubians built pyramids. However, they were much smaller and had a distinctive style. Review. How do archaeologists know that a different civilization lived to the south of Egypt? Summarize. interaction. By about 2575 BC, the Egyptians had invaded Nubia in search of resources. Egypt relied on Nubia for trade goods, such as gold, ivory, cattle, and ostrich feathers. The Egyptians also cut blocks of granite from Nubia's northern cliffs to use in building their temples. Egypt soon established trading centers and forts to protect trade routes in Nubia. During the 1800s BC, Egypt expanded its borders into northern Nubia. However, about 1650 BC, when the Hyksos were ruling Egypt, the Nubian kingdom of Kush became independent, or free. After the New Kingdom pharaohs regained power, Thutmose III retook Nubia in the 1400s BC. However, when the New Kingdom ended, Egypt became weak, and Kush regained its independence. By 750 BC, King Kashta of Kush had conquered Upper Egypt. His son, Pianki, conquered the rest of Egypt. Kushite kings then became pharaohs of Egypt. Review. Why did Egypt invade Nubia? Draw conclusions. Map adventure. You're a guide for Pianki. It is 720 BC. Pianki has just completed his conquest of Memphis. He decides to take a trip south, up the Nile. You are his guide. Pianki is counting on you to answer any of his questions. 1. You leave from the Egyptian village of Rakotis and travel toward Dashur. Pianki asks you if Dashur is in the Nile Delta. What is your response? 2. At Dashur, you get off the boat to look at the pyramids of the Old Kingdom. How many do you see? 3. You return to the boat and head toward Dendera. Are you traveling up or down the Nile? 4. In Dendera, Pianki climbs out of the boat. He explores the temple of Hathor, goddess of the sky. You both return to the boat so you can head for your last stop. The temple of Hatshepsut is located in Thebes. Does it lie north or south of Dendera? Kush rises. The Kushite kings completed many building projects during their reign. However, they were soon challenged by invaders from the east. About 670 BC, the Assyrians attacked Egypt, and the Kushites moved south to their capital at Napata. After 600 BC, the Egyptians regained some power and invaded Kush, destroying Napata. The Kushites founded a new capital in Meroe, where trade flourished. In Meroe, iron was plentiful. Traders from other lands wanted tools and weapons made of iron. But the Egyptians used bronze tools to cut granite blocks for the pyramids. Women such as Amanirenas became queens, as they did in Egypt. They led military expeditions and built great monuments. Queen Amanirenas opposed taxes that were imposed on her people. As a result, she led Kush into battle against the Romans in the 1st century BC. As Egypt grew weaker, its influence on Kush faded. However, Meroe remained a great trade center until AD 350. Review. How did Egypt's decline affect Kush? Cause and effect. Summarize the lesson. 3200 BC. First civilizations arose in Nubia. 1800s BC. Egypt expanded its borders into Nubia. About 750 BC. King Kashta conquered Upper Egypt. Lesson 3. Review. Check facts and main ideas. 1. Summarize. On a separate piece of paper, fill in the missing detail in the blank box. The Egyptians and Nubians shared some aspects of culture. The Egyptians invaded Nubia and set up trade and military posts to protect resources. The Nubians and Egyptians interacted. 2. How was the geography of Nubia different from Egypt? 3. Why did the ancient Egyptians and Nubians interact? 4. Why did other groups of people want to conquer Egypt? What impact did this have on Nubia? 5. Critical thinking, make inferences. Why do you think that the peaceful relationship between the Egyptians and Nubians changed over time? Link to writing. Write a paragraph. Write a paragraph about what the Nubians might have written down after seeing the Egyptians for the first time. Keep in mind that the Egyptians were in search of gold and other resources. Use the word independent in your paragraph.